everyone, and welcome back to Mission 1820 and this week's episode of Have You Ever Wondered? If you're just joining us, we've been in a series called Books of the Bible, and what we've been doing is just giving introductions into each book of the Bible in just 5 minutes or less. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. This week, we are actually starting the prophetical books of the Old Testament. Now, these are broken down into the 5 major prophets as well as the 12 minor prophets. But today, we're actually going to be reviewing the book of Isaiah, which is the 23rd book of the Bible. And it's the first of the 5 major prophets we'll be covering. Isaiah, he's considered the greatest of the Old Testament prophets. He's even been called the prince of the Old Testament prophets. Now, if you've never read this book, you're going to find that it is certainly a prince-sized book because it does have 66 chapters. And being the third longest next to Jeremiah and Psalms, and of all the books in the Old Testament, only the book of Psalms has more messianic prophecies than Isaiah, because it covers every aspect of the glory and ministry of Jesus. For example, his carnation can be read in chapter 7, verse 14. His youth can be read in chapter 11, verse 1. You can read his message in chapter 61, verses 1 and 2. And you can also read about his sufferings in chapter 53, verses 1 through 12. Now, Isaiah's name means the Lord saves. Now, this is appropriate because salvation was an important part of his message to the people of Judah. Now, Isaiah was primarily called to prophesy to the kingdom of Judah while they were going through times of revival and rebellion because they were being threatened with destruction by Assyria and Egypt. But the good news is they were spared because of God's mercy. Now, for some background about the book of Isaiah is considered narrative history as well as being prophetic. It was written by Isaiah around 700 BC, which was during the time of his ministry, and that was around 740 to about 680 BC. And another note, for Jewish tradition, Isaiah was martyred during King Manasseh's reign by actually being sawed in half inside of a hollow log. So why did Isaiah write this book? Well, the purpose of this book was to call God's nation of Judah back to faithfulness and to declare the coming Messiah. You see, God called and commissioned Isaiah to declare 3 things to Judah and to Israel. And those were condemnation, conviction, as well as ultimately their great hope. The book falls naturally, I think, into 2 major sections, and that's chapters 1 through 39 and chapters 40 through 66. So the general theme of the first part of the book is God's approaching judgment on the nation of Judah as he points out the sins of both the northern and southern kingdoms. Isaiah's message in the second part of the book is that after their period of judgment has passed, God's covenant people will eventually be restored to their place of responsibility in God's plan for the salvation of the world. Isaiah closes his book with a beautiful description of the glorious age to come. And we can read these in chapters 56 through 66. When in that day, the city of Zion or Jerusalem, well, they're going to be restored and God's people will once again gather there to worship him in all his majesty and glory. Isaiah finishes with a grand vision of the fulfillment of all of God's covenant promises. You see, through the suffering servant, God creates a covenant family with all nations who are awaiting the hope of a renewed creation and the coming of God's kingdom here on earth as it is in heaven. And that is the great reward for those who trust and obey God. So with that, I hope this introduction is going to help get you started in the book of Isaiah. So God bless and thanks for watching.